I'm the Commission Officer for Assistive Technology at Kirklees Council. Brilliant opportunity to kind of give an overview of how assistive technology has benefited children's services. As we know, the offer of assistive technology in many local authorities is really well established in adult services. We've kind of taken that on board, and over the last, I'd say, 18 to 24 months, we've really developed an offer in children's services, and it's going really, really well. And we continue to evolve and look at different kind of elements. So initially we started in kind of children with the disability services, and now we're moving into education, and it kind of continues to evolve around kind of looking at how we can use the in-house services, in-house provisions, platforms, etc. that we have. So I'm hopefully going to share some information with you, some useful information, which we can kind of talk about, and hopefully we can inspire other local authorities to kind of follow a similar approach, because the benefits of it are massive. So again, we haven't got much time, but just welcomed you all. Just going to go through kind of a plan of the workshop very, very briefly. So the journey so far in terms of how I came into post and how kind of we've shaped an offer of assistive technology in Kirklees, some case studies as well, and the outcomes, in terms of what assistive technology can achieve. And then I'm happy to kind of take any questions as well. So in terms of how did we get here, it's been a journey in terms of getting myself into post. It all started back in 2018 when the council commissioned a diagnostic review of assistive technology by a consultancy agency by the name of Red Quadrant. That identified a number of opportunities for the use of AT. There were a number of pilots undertaken, one with Brain in Hand. There was a few other things as well. And then obviously that need was kind of identified and progress it further. And luckily for me, I came into post in 2022 as a 2-year secondment. It was extended for another year last May. So it's kind of growing, and hopefully we can continue to be I can continue to be in post and continue the good work that's been happening. So everyone's definition or understanding of assistive technology is quite different. If you speak to the person on the streets, or just kind of normally, whenever we talk about assistive technology, people think, oh, it's really about technology, it's really about computers, and it's really about kind of iPads, and these kind of things. But in reality, it's anything that can help an individual live a better life. The glasses that we wear, the mobile phones that we have, it's in school, a pencil grip, these are the kind of things that this is what assistive technology is. So it's quite, it opens up a lot of doors, And in terms of the council's definition of assistive technology, we've taken the approach from the World Health Organization, which is assistive devices and technologies are those whose primary purpose is to maintain or improve an individual's functional independence and to facilitate participation and to enhance overall well-being. And they can also help prevent impairments and secondary health conditions. So we've taken like I said, the World Health Organization definition, and that's what we've kind of taken forward as a council. But as you can see, it's anything that can help an individual, and that's what it's about. The whole purpose and the whole kind of objective in terms of my role is how can we help an individual, well, children's services in this case, be the best that they can be, based on the conditions, the health conditions that they have, and that's that's the main aim. So I've just got some diagrams there of different types of assistive technology. As I mentioned, in adult services, the offer of assistive technology is really well established in most local authorities. Things such as telehealth, telecare, so the seizure alarms for individuals who have a seizure-related condition, GPS devices. The third diagram is a GPS device there. Fall detectors, smoke detectors, etc., all with the kind of focus to help individuals remain at home as independent for as long as possible, to reduce the burden on carers, reduce the need for expensive care packages, etc. So it's kind of taking that and bringing it into children's services, and that's what we're looking. That's what was the initial aim. But as I'll go on, I'll mention how it's kind of changed. And there's a really powerful speech there at the bottom. So for most of us, technology makes things easier. For a person with a disability, it makes things possible, and that's reality. My case studies will kind of resonate with that as well. So it's a powerful statement, and that's what we can do. And that's the opportunity that we have. So really hope to kind of inspire other local authorities to really think about it and take things forward. And I'm happy to kind of work with anyone to kind of share good practices, learn from others as well. So why are we here? What's when I got invited to this to this workshop and to kind of give an overview. It was off the back of a presentation that we gave at the Commissioners' Conference, and we were also nominated for an award as well. We want to continue evolving and embrace new practices. Again, the objective is to help children and families, be the best that can be. So if we put something in for a child, a piece of assistive technology, how can we help the family as well? How can we help the parents, the carers, etc.? We want to share the successes we've had, and there's been a lot of successes luckily, and also help local authorities develop their offers. And again, we want to create partnerships as well, because no doubt we're on a learning curve here at Kirklees, and who knows, there might be another local authority that might have an offer of assistive technology for children's. How can we make it better, and how can we work together? How can we look at economies of scale in terms of purchasing? So it's a really good opportunity that we have to really take things forward. So the national context, as you're probably already aware, over the last couple of months, the Prime Minister's mentioned, investment in AI, and this falls under assistive technology. If we're looking at things, there's platforms such as Copilot, ChatGPT, etc. And this, again, there's risks, no doubt, but there's opportunities as well, and that's what we want to kind of explore. So it's kind of shaped by a commitment to improving the education and development outcomes for children with SEND. Maximizing the independence, developing resilience of child and family of the child and family members. And as you know, most councils are in a perilous financial situation. Schools are obviously, resources are very stretched, budgets are very stretched. So we want to kind of prevent, reduce, and delay the need for statutory services. And assistive technology gives us that opportunity. Here in the council, I think it's been demonstrated by the investment in myself. It affects there's a commitment there to support well-being and development of children with additional needs. We want to ensure that they have the tools, the resources to participate fully at home and in education environments. And we kind of collaborate with different bodies within the council to ensure that we can achieve the best possible outcomes as well. So why the need? Why the need for AT in children's services? I mentioned independence. That's one of the key things. The classic example comes to mind in school, where a child will have an EHCP, which enables them to have one-to-one support. Now, that one-to-one support it's brilliant, but that one-to-one support is not always going to be there in that child's life. So how can assistive technology look at that element, and how can it reduce? How can it increase independence? That's one of the things that we're looking at as well. How can we kind of, is there assistive technology that can prevent or reduce the need for that one-to-one support in school? Those are the kind of things that we can look at, and there's so many different tools that are out there that once we start thinking and get staff thinking creatively, that positive risk taking, we can really look at that independence element. Obviously, away from there, at home as well, how can we make children as independent as possible, reduce the need for parents to always be there. Obviously, there's a safety element as well, but it gives us the opportunity to think outside of the box as well. It also helps manage potential risks in and around the home. Again, the children are presenting with more and more different needs, and often I get asked the question, what is your offer of assistive technology? Do you have a catalog of equipment? And I'll kind of respond back and say, no, look, I don't have a catalog of equipment, but what's the unmet need of that child? Is it, for example, in school, is it around communication? Is it around handwriting? Is it around literacy? Is it around reading? Similarly, at home, is there a risk of absconding? Is there, something around safety? So it's looking at, what can we do to meet that unmet need? And that's what the main kind of focus is, rather than kind of wrapping children around different pieces of equipment. Let's kind of iron out what the unmet need is and how can assistive technology meet that unmet need. Reducing the need for a child to go into hospital or in care. We know the costs of hospital admission. We know the cost of a child going into care. Potentially, assistive technology could help reduce that need. So parents and carers are key in any conversation. So we want to improve their quality of life as well. We want them to continue working if possible. We want them to have a better night's sleep as well. Again, I mentioned safety and independence, reducing the escalation of care needs at home. Often the go-to option when it comes to children with a disability is, we'll put in a package of care, which is totally understandable. The chances are probably 80%, 90% of the time, physical support is needed. But that 10%, there's an opportunity there to look at assistive technology to see if we can help individuals and reduce the need for an expensive care package. Saving money. We're all in the same situation. Budgets are very tight. Assistive technology, it gives us the opportunity. Obviously, the main focus is independence and how can we have a positive outcome. But in terms of saving money, there's an opportunity there. Increasing access to learning, again, that's focusing on schools, enhancing communication. We've got different, it can be, as I mentioned, assistive technology can be something as simple as a pencil grip or something like that, to something as complicated as an eye gaze device, which can help with communication needs for children with those kind of needs. And it customizes learning as well. So we can look at different learning methods to help a specific child's needs. So those are the kind of main points in terms of why the need for assistive technology in children's services. So what have we achieved over the last 24 months? So circa savings in excess of £300,000 have been achieved through the use of assistive technology so far. That's what we've achieved. The service has gained national recognition by being highly recommended in the innovation and building diversity and inclusion category at the MG Awards. We have active participation in key industry events, such as the National Commissioners Conference, which I just touched upon earlier on. A membership with TSA, who are like the umbrella body for tech-enabled care, which is another name for assistive technology. Also, the British Assistive Technology Association as well. We've kind of given presentations around the work that's been ongoing. And now, I don't know whether other local authorities are aware of the PINS project, which a lot of local authorities are part of, where it's intervention to help children and staff in schools. It's around neurodiversity. So it's due to end in March, and there's 14 schools that are part of this project in Kirklees. And assistive technology is one of the interventions that's been used with those schools to kind of build up their knowledge. We're looking at a loan bank of equipment as well, so that the schools can access that assistive technology loan bank of equipment. That's part of the PINS project. So in addition to that, we're looking at kind of Microsoft 365 as well. So programs such as Copilot, Dictate, we're doing a project at the moment with the youth justice team around using Dictate for case recordings. So that's another example of how it's kind of initially we were looking at children with a disability. It's evolving now into schools, then to kind of in-house staff as well. So looking forward to different, and it's going to continuously kind of evolve and give us different opportunities as well. So we hope to kind of continue with the achievements and share these good practices. Just got a few case studies now, just to kind of demonstrate the different types of assistive technology and how it's had an impact. So the case study one is around some work, a project, a pilot that we did with a special school. We identified 6 children who were using a device or a platform called Grid 3 in school, and we wanted to kind of demonstrate the possibilities of or kind of the positives of them having the equipment at home as well. So we know there's a clear gap in children's services where pupils who attend a special school, they don't have access to the AT that they use in school available at home. So we identified 6 children as part of a pilot project, and Grid 3, which is a platform that empowers children to communicate, control the environment, etc. And the results were amazing. It's the whole ethos of the pilot was to give children a voice at home. And the classic example there is, I think this was from a parent. So prior to Grade 3, the child was communicating by physically taking a person to what he wanted. Limitations were that he could not make sentences, slow repetition. Since Grade 3 came into play, is making sentences to tell parents what he wants, not as frustrated, able to initiate. And the whole object of giving a child a voice at home has been achieved. Now, a lot of the times with these case studies, we look for kind of cost savings and, financial benefits and things like that. But in this case, the AT solution has given a voice to the child, which is immeasurable. We can't put a price on that. And there's been other examples where we've put in TD Snap, which is another platform, and the relationship between the parent and the child has become so much better as well in terms of that communication platform being used. So the benefits are huge, in terms of the communication devices. The second case study is around a young chap who's on the who has an autism spectrum condition, severely delayed language and communication skills, no awareness of danger. We had a discussion with mum and the support worker, and we agreed for a door and window sensor that's linked to a to a pager type device called a Care Assist, and we put that in place. And we obviously would review things. So the risk of absconding has been reduced. And when we're looking at costs, it's potentially reduced the care costs, and a saving there of in excess of £8,000. So again, a different type of equipment, the bed sensor, window sensor, door sensor, but it just shows what can happen, and the benefits of it. In terms of the third case study, this goes back to school now. So I had an email from a deputy head teacher, so a year 6 child. So this child has been in the school system, going to transition to high school soon. Diagnosis of dyslexia. Despite the best efforts of the school with phonics, precision teaching, etc., the child was still struggling. So made a number of different suggestions, and then we loaned out a dyslexia reader pen, and again the benefits of it massive, and we've seen this in a number of cases. So as you can see from the child's voice, when I first showed the reader pen to the child, the face absolutely lit up. He said, "I can get a real book now as it can read it to me, and choose without the reading area," which is generally what most children do. Really enjoyed it, being able to access books like the other children in the class. The teacher's voice, the pen has really helped the child to become more independent and access tasks such as reading skills. His confidence, his ability to access the classroom and text more independently, and it's impacted on his social and emotional well-being as well. So a pen which costs about 200, I think 200, 250 pounds, has had this positive impact. But the worrying thing is that this is a year six child, so he's probably been in school all that time and struggled. Whereas if it was identified earlier that a piece of assistive technology could help, then the chances are that his reading would have improved, and come high school, he'd possibly be in a better position. And my final case study is a really powerful one. And I met this lady at an event, ironically, as well, a short time after. So we received a query from mum, who's the main carer to a teenage daughter who's autistic and also has epilepsy. Her mental health was really suffering, lack of sleep, and sleep. She wasn't on any medication, was a daughter. So she had to be awake when she had a seizure as well. So as you can see, she was averaging around 18 to 24 hours sleep per week. She got in touch with myself, through her support worker. We identified a seizure alarm. There's many seizure alarms on the market, and what we tend to do here is we have a joint conversation with the product supplier, the parent, the support worker, to ensure that we look at the most appropriate solution, because if there's so many different ones and there's different types of seizures as well. So we identified this specific seizure alarm, and it was it gave her peace of mind to sleep soundly as well. It was a portable device, and this was a quote that came through from mum. So she, as you can see yourself. I'm honestly not sure where I would be now if I had to continue as I had been doing. This unit and everyone involved in bringing it into our lives has changed mine for the better. She's very glad that they have it, because although it's still challenging, and no doubt, children who have children with a disability, any child who's caring for someone with a disability, there's still going to be challenges, but it's about how we can manage it better, improve the quality of life. So despite it still being challenging, it's lightened the load a little, and she was so grateful for the opportunity to allow herself to sleep without fear. Since then, she's been able to return to work and avoid the pitfalls of sleep deprivation. So it's had a positive impact, rather than just the impact in terms of the child having a device that can alert mum to the seizure. Mum's been able to get some more sleep. In her mental health has been positively impacted. And thirdly, she's been able to go back into work, and that's what she said when I met her as well. So again, we're not talking costly pieces of equipment, but the benefits of it are huge. Nearly finished. So this slide just gives a very indicative picture of the different outcomes that can be achieved. You've got the kind of cashable savings, and then you've got the non-cashable savings. Obviously, those figures might have changed. They probably have changed because of the increase in cost for care and whatnot. So you can see from there, the cashable savings potentially in terms of preventing the need for an assessment, preventing the need for care, preventing the need for respite, short breaks, etc., residential care. They're all there. And then I, touched upon the other kind of non-cashable savings previously, so reducing the need for hospital admission, managing a health condition, delaying the need for further care, reducing deprivation of liberties, better night's sleep. But there's so many other different kind of outcomes that we've achieved as well. So that's the opportunities again, yeah, are huge. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate your time. I'm happy to take any questions to kind of elaborate on anything further as well.
So we do have a couple of questions that people have put in the chat.
Okay.
Can you see them, or
Just have a look.
I can read them out if you would like.
I'll stop sharing.
So there was one from Nikki. How are you currently assessing the unmet need to access AT? Is it through social care assessments or OT assessments, etc.?
Yeah, so it's both, Nikki, to be honest with you. We're on a journey in terms of making children, social workers, occupational therapists, family support workers aware that assistive technology is an intervention. So it's kind of making staff aware of the benefits of it through case studies, through product information, and that's how we're trying to kind of identify the need. And what we generally with children with disability, the cases are presented at a panel, and then the discussion is held, and we look to kind of, I'm part of that panel, and we look to see if there's any assistive technology that can meet that unmet need. It's getting better, but we've got a long way to go because changing culture, as you know, takes time. But the more we kind of share the positive case studies, the fact that the government are kind of really pushing things as well in terms of AT, I think it's really helping. So it is through assessments, and kind of OTs have a lot of knowledge as well. So yeah, sorry, Nikki, I put your
Yeah,
hand
I
up as
didn't
well.
know if I could speak because, but yeah, I think Suleman, thank you, because I think it's amazing.
No worries.
I'm a SEND social care service manager in a
Oh,
local
brilliant.
authority, so I manage a children with disabilities social care team as well as early help for disabilities, and we've been having numerous conversations about how we support our children, young people with assistive technology that supports their voice being heard. How
Yeah.
can social workers gather that with the children, young people, and their families? And we've been talking to our IT about different apps on work
Yeah.
phones and different things, but I think it's absolutely wider than that, very much like you've said. And I think from this, I will be having a conversation with our commissioner because I think it's certainly something we can develop. I've spoke to our OT services, and I know there's things out there for adults,
Oh, definitely.
and there are some things through the assisted technology, but again, it's very much adult focused rather than
Yeah.
some of our children's focus. And I really liked what you said around linking with the same equipment that they've got in school
Yeah.
to be able to have that at home, so they're not learning a new piece of technology. They're using the same that can be used both at home and in the community. So it might be, Suleman, that I get your details
Please
and
do. Yeah.
we maybe link up with our commissioning to see what we can do, because we're not far from you. We're in
Yeah.
Knowlesley, so
Oh,
you're
right.
only in
Yeah.
Kirklees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely worth a wider conversation. I really liked your case studies, that the fact that you'd really clearly put the measurable outcomes, because as you know, within children's services and any other form of practice, we are looking at those measurable outcomes for our
Yeah.
families. We want to see those improvements and our young people achieve with those very clear aspirations, and any help that we can give them is what we want.
Absolutely. No, brilliant. Nikki, you mentioned apps. So there's a organization, I don't know whether you guys are aware of, called Scotland, and they provide it's like a wheel of apps, and especially in children's services, obviously the needs are so different, but there's a lot of those apps are free.
Right.
So I'd request, especially like I say, in children's services, call Scotland, check their website out. They're really good, and a lot of the resources are free because we know the situation that we're in at the moment, financially. So it's kind of looking at what there is free of charge, and that's where kind of we can kind of really see what there is and see where we go from there.
Yeah, those are the things that we were having the conversation, because a lot of our parents, as much as the local authority, it's having the funds to be able to purchase
Yeah.
these apps, have a license
Yeah.
for these apps. So it's looking at lots of different options.
Mm.
But thank you very much.
No worries, no worries. And Andrea, just in terms of what Nikki's mentioned, my details will be on the distribution list, won't they? So
Yeah,
Thank
I'm not
you.
sure who exactly would be the one to share the information. I can always share it
yeah,
if people need it, but I will definitely let the people know that you're wanting that, or I can, if you're happy to, I can share your details in the
yeah,
chat
yeah.
right
I'm
now.
happy with that.
Okay.
No problem, no problem.
Yeah, if it's in the are the slides coming out to us as well? Fab.
I'm not sure about that. But the session is being recorded, and I'm assuming that like that is because they are going to be sharing materials afterwards, but also don't
I
quote me on
know
that.
the main one they are, so I just wondered about the workshops, that's all. I just
can
think
send
there
them
was some,
across.
I made some notes, but I think there was a lot of relevant information on it, Suleman, really.
I'll send
So
it across.
thank you.
Okay, so I've just sent my email, put my email address in the chat. So if you just send me,
Fabulous.
oh well,
I'll send you
Andrea's
an
done that as
email.
well. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, no worries.
So yeah, I'll happily share the slides with you to anyone. Sorry, Charlotte. Charlotte's on mute.
You're on mute,
Didn't
yeah.
unmute myself. Sorry. Hi, I had a couple of questions. I also work with Nikki, so I'm made up to see Nikki on the call today. Just with regard to, well, firstly, with regard to some of the equipment that is provided for, are there any joint commissioning arrangements for equipment? I'm specifically doing a piece of work around communication aid equipment. So are there any joint commissioning arrangements? How is provision in terms of where there is a cost funded?
There's no joint commission arrangements at the moment, Charlotte, to be honest with you. Generally, if a child is identified as needing a communication device, for example, then it's through direct payments. That's used. The general kind of care budget that's in place. The funding is utilised from that. Generally, we also look at kind of charitable funding. And a lot of these companies, they're willing to kind of trial things before someone purchases. So that really helps. We've had kind of trial periods, and kind of if it doesn't work, then we'll look at something else. So those are the kind of general funding. That's the only funding pathway that's there at the moment. But we try and explore as many different things as possible, to try and get to where we need to be. But that's what we've done, yeah.
Okay, and just with relation to case study, one in particular, but any that require kind of an ongoing maintenance service of equipment. So do you use a particular maintenance service of equipment? Again, I'm thinking specifically around communication aids, but it could be anything, I suppose. But in terms of that is one of the challenges, isn't it, when it comes to AT, is that ongoing need for maintenance, for replacement, so on. Do you use a particular maintenance service, for example, or?
Yeah, so generally with the kind of telecare equipment that we have, so we've got an adult services team as well. The kind of seizure alarms and things like that, they can be kind of maintained by that team, but there's no specific team, because what tends to happen is there's no set provider that we kind of go to, because every child's needs so different. So it could be Tobii Dynavox, where we purchase Boardmaker, or something like that from. It could be somewhere else where we purchase something else from, TD Snap, from somewhere else. So it all depends on what kind of agreement is in place with them. So it's between kind of probably us to a degree and the product provider in terms of maintenance. So we don't have a set company or organization as such that provides the maintenance. But that maintenance is a good question, because once you provide the equipment, it's kind of really up to the family to kind of maintain it, because that's theirs then. Yeah.
I suppose there's quite a lot of coordination though, isn't there, in-house then, in terms of liaising and working with those with multiple companies in terms of kind of that and so that sits in-house, does it then? With yourself, or
with myself, so it's kind of having that kind of continuous relationship with them, and that's built up over time. And like I said, they're very good, these organizations, especially the kind of communication devices. We do have a link with the Barnsley Assistive Technology team, who have the contract for AAC, so alternative and augmentative communication. So but the criteria to kind of access help from them is very strict.
Is that the ACE Centre? Is that?
No, this is different to the ACE Centre. This is I'm aware of the ACE Centre in Oldham, but this is I think that's the region. The Barnsley Hospital provide the regional kind of support. But again, there's a bit of a gap there where a child doesn't meet the criteria for the AAC service, and then what do we do?
What do we do
When we
locally?
had some funding available, we provided some equipment to the kind of low level equipment, like the kind of voice recorders, and various other things to kind of our OTs to kind of give them more kind of opportunity to kind of work with these children. So that's gone really well as well, but that's all dependent on funding.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Some more questions, wasn't there, Andrea? Yeah.
Yeah, there was one in the chat from Iona that said, can you give an outline of how savings can be achieved in education through the use of AT? Is it mostly about reduction in staff?
Yeah, brilliant question. So it's not about reduction in staff. It's more kind of empowering staff. That's the key thing. We want staff to be knowledgeable around assistive technology. So I don't know whether people are aware in terms of schools. Most schools are on Microsoft 365. Within Microsoft 365, within Teams, there's Reading Coach, Reading Progress that can help massively with a child who's struggling with reading. There's Dictate, there's Copilot. So it's more around kind of empowering staff and trying to give them the knowledge to help the children and kind of help them as well. But you've got so many different things out there in schools. You've got the pen readers, that can help a child to read. There's touch typing programs that we've implemented. It's there's so many things. But I'm happy to kind of pick up a conversation with Iona around that. And I can assure you it's not about reduction in staff. It's more kind of inspiring staff, and kind of giving them the tools to be the best that they can be. But yeah, sorry, you put your hand up.
Yeah, well, I think the bit I was trying to get is because everything costs, like you say, budgets are really tight and everything costs lots of money, and you've very clearly demonstrated how you've made savings within children's social care. But in education, I completely see the value of all of this, absolutely. But it's how do we persuade schools that initial outlay, or how do I persuade commissioners in the local authority that initial outlay is going to create a cost saving rather than just improve the educational experience?
Yeah. It's generally through kind of demonstrating the products. I want to be honest with you. For example, recently, about a month or so ago, there was a trial. There was 60-day trial, free trial for these pen readers, and with that there was training attached to it as well. And we asked for kind of feedback in terms of what difference has it made. And we saw firsthand in terms of from those 60 from the usage for those 60 days, it went really, really well. So it's kind of using those kind of methods, and there's some really inspiring organizations that are out there that can really showcase the benefits of AT in education, because we've kind of evolved from the daily living children with a disability, and we've kind of evolved into schools over the last 12 months, and it's difficult to kind of give an outline as such, but the case studies from the product providers can definitely amplify that.
We had one other question. This maybe is probably a shorter answer. Please, can you recommend a reader pen that works well, ideally one that can also be attached to headphones so it can be used in class without causing disruption? Thanks.
Yeah. I think from my understanding, they can all be used with headphones. What I'll do is, if you drop me an email, I will send across the details of the free trial that's ongoing at the moment through Scanning Pens, and we can kind of put in specific needs. So I think recently I organized a trial where there was some language, so that it wasn't language difficulties, but it was a different language. So I think they could provide a different version to kind of ensure that language element could be sorted out. So yeah, I'm happy to kind of discuss that via email and get that free trial for that colleague. That's not a problem.
That was just to go in. It was me. It's Holly. I'm an educational psychologist, so this is really fascinating for me. And kind of mirroring what the previous lady said. I can totally see the value of all this assistive technology, and particularly for my role as part of the education, health and care needs assessments, with outcomes in mind for your children, young people. What you said about increasing their independence and autonomy is just always my aspiration for these young people. So yeah, it was just me. It's just trying to, I suppose my ultimate goal is to have a resource bank of AT that is evidence-based, because I think schools get bamboozled by the market, and obviously with the cost implications. I think if I could aid them in that and be recommending things that I know work and they're not going. So I love your idea of getting trial periods as well. So yeah, if I can link with you, if there's anything, just to even signpost me to places where I can just get a really good robust list of AT that's effective in schools, that'd be great.
No problem, Hannah. No worries.
Thank you.
Have I answered all the questions? Sorry.
I think so. Does anyone have a final question before we wrap up here?
Just wanted to say, I think I understand what you were saying about it's really hard to have a catalogue because there's so much out there. But I found in my own casework, I don't know what I don't know. Like, I have no idea what's out there for children with a visual impairment or who are epileptic, or, you know, there's so much when I've dug into it and spoken to the sort of specific teams. But I just wouldn't have had a clue that even to search for it, because I'd have had no idea, you know, things like kettle tippers, you know, like I wouldn't have had a clue they were a thing.
Yeah.
So I can understand people wanting some kind of, I don't know, list of ideas almost, you know, like what exists.
On that, Lucy, you know, that we had a request for a specific blender for a child who has really specific dietary needs, and Mum was struggling to kind of blend that so that they can be ready for school.
Yeah.
So we were able to get some funding via a charity to kind of, you know, fund that
We've
blender.
Just done something very similar for twins.
So it's so diverse, you know, each child is so different, you know. We've provided neater arms for a child, you know, who was struggling with because of his arms and that, you know, so it's so diverse, so different. But
I get that it's impossible to list everything.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
But those key things, like, you know, we mentioned epilepsy. Again, it's the focus is on what type of seizures, how do they present, you know, that kind of thing. So it's kind of looking at that element and seeing what we can do. But in terms of the question that you asked, I'm happy to kind of touch base with you and see if we can work together and kind of, you know, create maybe an information sheet around, you know, what's the art of the possible.
Yeah, that'd be great. Also, I put in the chat, but I don't know if it got lost. Our SEN support team are running a conference next term about assistive technology in schools. So it's all school stuff. Would it be okay for me to share your contact details with the manager of that team?
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. That's really interesting. Thanks very much.
No worries.
Alrighty, that is our time. So we're going to be going into a 10-minute break now before you join your second workshops. But thank you all for coming, and thank you again, Suleman.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in the next one.
See you shortly. No worries. Cheers. Thanks all. Bye.